I am heavy weapons guy. And this is my weapon. She weighs 150 kilograms and fires $200 custom tool cartridges at 10,000 rounds per minute. It costs $400,000 to fire this weapon for 12 seconds. Who touched Sasha? Who touched my gun? Some people think they can outsmart me. Maybe. Maybe. I've yet to meet one that can outsmart a bullet.
So we talked about the mortar wagons. Time to talk about the ROR, which is not at all a mortar, but is in fact a Hellblaster volley gun, of course. The Black Lions War Wagons Regiment of Renown. And yeah, instead of a mortar, it's a Hellblaster, and we'll go into that in just a minute here. This replay, let me just double check who was submitted by. Romulus, yes, that's right. Up against High Elves here, we've got Balthazar leading the way, some Empire Knights, a couple of regular war wagons, a whole spam of infantry, as traditional right now for the Empire. Sigmar's Sons, Swordsman, Spearman, Captain leading the way. As for the High Elves, we've got a Moon Dragon and a Lariel up in the air, Bolt Throwers, some Rangers, plenty of Lothern Sea Guard, 6 Lothern Sea Guard, and yeah, just overall reasonable build. I will say from the outset, generally I like White Lions better in literally every way than Rangers right now, especially against Empire, as they trade extremely well into Empire heavy cavalry, and will beat almost all Empire infantry pretty much the same as Rangers. Arguably better in some situations, but anyway, Black Lions just chilling back for the time being. Try not to take too much damage from that Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, which wisely does switch onto single shot mode and start targeting them. The Empire Knights, War Wagons pushing forward. Empire obviously wants to try and shut down this Bolt Thrower, and given the number of infantry units they have, they should be able to do so. I mean, High Elves with, what, 6 infantry units in total here. The Empire plays their kind of micro correctly, they should be able to circumnavigate and at least get 1 unit into the back line. High Elves being aggressive, though, doing what they should to push forward, trying to decisively win a couple of engagements to start to even out that numbers advantage. Unfortunately, that Swordsman does not break. Empire leadership able to hold. I mean, they're no Bretonnian peasants, right? So that's just fine. Taking some shots from some Lothern Sea Guard on the approach, that's just fine. Empire, State Troops, they've seen it all already. They don't care about your Ponzi Elves. Fight for the Emperor. Anyway, War Wagons also moving up to get in a position to shoot. Still very wisely just hanging back with the War Lions here. The War Wagons. There's in fact no Lions at all on the High Elf side, which is a little bit sad to see. But nice breath attack does break a couple of those swordsmen. This ranger does take plenty of damage in the meantime, though. Nice searing doom. Could even place that slightly more centrally on the rangers. You're going to do a little bit of friendly fire, but value-wise, that's still a great trade for you. Empire Knights charging into Spearmen here. The Spearmen looked like they were slightly disrupted. Regardless, though, Plague of Rust, and I guess Cavalry are dead, right? I mean, you can't charge Cavalry into Spear Infantry and just win straight up, right? Anyway, the Black Lions now in a position to start shooting, and their targeting priority is going to be counter-shooting the Bolt Throwers here. The Bolt Throwers are focused on them. They may have been focused on some other targets in the meantime while they were out of range, but with this type of situation, the Bolt Throwers are at a severe disadvantage. They've allowed the War Wagons to take advantage, not get range exploited here, and then obviously Empire Infantry kind of collapses, sort of making the whole thing a moot point. But yeah, the War Wagons were able to get in range without getting hit up too much on the approach, which was going to give them a significant advantage. And now with the Bolt Throwers shut down, really the only thing that's left threatening the Black Lions is the Moon Dragon itself. If it were to go up and try and just directly attack the War Wagons, I mean, there's not a lot to stop it from doing so. These other War Wagons are in a position to move in and fire into the rear. Balthazar getting Tempested, I mean, Alariel could deal with him. So definitely in this situation, from the High Elves' perspective, you just want to detach the dragon here and just go directly attack these War Wagons. You have the speed to do so, and you'll take damage in the meantime, but you have nothing else to try and shut it down. And as we can see, it won't take much time at all for those Black Lions to just destroy the poor dragon. Poor Moondragon definitely does not deserve this. It's arguable. Maybe he ate their goats or something. Who knows? But Balthazar staying away from Alariel very wisely. Alariel staying close to the Moondragon very wisely, trying to heal it back up, get it back in the fight. Balance power still fairly even, and there's plenty of Sea Guards. We've got Rangers coming back from route as well, able to come in and potentially contribute. But the Empire Knight Micro, I do want to highlight as well, has been very good. Empire Knights are one of those units that tend not to put out a ton of damage. They're more mobile tanks than anything. I mean, they are technically shock cavalry, but they're really more used like melee cavalry and just sort of stopping up gaps. But here, taking advantage of that 48 charge bonus, ping-ponging around, very nicely done. A lot of anti-large on the field left for the High Elves still. You can see the Moondragon does come back, get a little bit of Star of Averlorn healing there, so that is decent. But these War Wagons are still perfectly healthy, and again, other than going and directly attacking them here with the Moondragon, there's not a lot else you can do, and the Moondragon currently just sitting right now. Sort of like a sitting duck, but it does look like it's going to maneuver away. War Wagons still have plenty of ammunition left as well, so just preserving it, keeping it in a good position to try and hang on to things. Balthazar is in a dangerous position, though. He's potentially just going to get multi-crossfired here. Yep, almost sensing what I'm saying. Moves away from those Sea Guards, dropping some more Searing Doom. Sea Guards are mostly able to dodge it, but it still does catch the clip, clip the flank rather of those Rangers. That's good stuff. He dives down to try and break these Sea Guards here, and at this point the Black Lions are actually going to start shooting Alariel, which is probably the right target. I mean, she doesn't have a ton of HP, and although they're going to do some horrendous friendly fire here on some missed shots straight into some Empire infantry, I mean, yeah, less than 4,000 HP. If she gets hit by a couple of volleys, she's going to want to run away pretty quick. I mean, maybe not run away. She is an elf after all, but you know what I mean. She's not going to enjoy it, right? And one great thing about gunpowder units is the missile speed tends to be a little bit faster. It still can be hard to hit flying units with the multi-shot type artillery like Hellblasters, but still, when they're mobile and on a wagon, definitely helps. Helps them, like with everything I said with the mortar wagons, helps them not get counterfired as easily, right? Like a regular Hellblaster obviously would have been quickly counterfired by that bolt thrower. War Wagons, instead, the Black Lions were able to maneuver away, get into a firing position, and now just unleash hell, quite literally, onto these Ponzi Elves. Regular War Wagons also just kind of securing this central firing position here. Balthazar jumps down once again. He's taking quite a bit of damage here, being a risky boy fighting Spearmen, but we'll see. Plague of Rust, interesting to use that on just regular Spearmen. Puts them down to 0 armor. Still have 50 melee defense, but all of the hits that they're taking here are doing the full amount of their damage, which, considering they're fighting like Balthazar and some Spearmen, is really not much, but still something. And a nice Searing Doom just to cap things off while they're still at 0 armor is very effective. Get some extra damage in there. More healing from Alariel, but there's still plenty of ammunition left on the War Wagons, so how much will it actually end up mattering? Again, though, in the High Elf situation, there's not much to protect the Black Lions from just getting directly charged by the Moondragon, so it would be beneficial. And the Stagger actually knocks the Moondragon out of the area of effect there momentarily, preventing it from getting the full amount of the healing, which is nice. Kind of a little bit of a hidden buff right there. But with Balthazar pretty much gone, the captain, it'll be up to him to try and hold things. Finally, the Moondragon's like, okay, maybe I can charge here. Nope. Trying to just dodge shots instead, which the Dragon's a little bit too big of a target to effectively dodge against the Hellblaster. I mean, maybe if you're out here at the very max range, but balance of power still very, very close, as the Empire mostly just had some tattered infantry left. Captain, though, I mean, he knows no fear. He's completely fine. He's literally only got one eye, but who cares? I mean, he's seen better days. He's also seen worse days, too. Just putting his shield up, taking it on the chin like a true champion of the Empire. Hellblasters firing in the background, more wagons firing, and it looks like High Elves are still holding, still got plenty of ammo left on the Sea Guards, but this Dragon is just about done for. Yeah, Alariel also just getting roasted by the Black Lions there. Like I said, just a few decisive volleys. She's gonna get out of there. Gonna want to get out of there. Yep, indeed. And there, she actually shatters straight up. So that's pretty much game for the High Elves. I mean, the Sea Guards can try and hold out against this, but the captain with the infantry should be able to grind through them just fine. I mean, the wagons still have enough ammo also to keep shooting the Lothran Sea Guards. So, Sea Guards actually countercharge in here, which, man, Sea Guards have a pretty cool, like, charge animation. It's a pity spear units don't have more of a charge bonus in this game. And I know, I've been thinking about making a countercharge video for a long time, even before countercharging Great Weapon Infantry was a thing due to a bug, but I actually have been thinking a little bit about that recently, and I do think that, this is a definite tangent, but just in terms of the Great Weapon countercharge bug, I do think some units should probably retain this behavior. Like, it makes more sense, in my opinion, for Slayers, for example, to countercharge rather than to stand and brace. Like, obviously, most spear units, you know, halberd units, anti-large type units should stand and brace. For almost all infantry, in fact, it should be better to stand and brace, but it actually does make sense for certain specific units to maybe have, like, an actual countercharge trait that's, like, listed on their unit card and everything. Anyway, that's a side tangent, absolutely. But, yeah, almost 4,000 value on the Black Lines. A lot of that comes from shooting at a healed Moondragon, but obviously Alariel's quite valuable as well. And just in general, you still have to do that DPS to them, right? So, very good stuff there. War Wagons also performing great. Empire Knights doing their thing. Actually cleaning up a lot of kill total against the High Elves, even though it's not a lot of damage value. Still very solid for Empire Knights. State Troops do their thing as well, just drowning the High Elves in cost-effective professional fighters. Balthazar being a little bit risky, but hey, that's how he does it. Yeah, in general for the High Elves, things are pretty decent. I mean, Sea Guard's definitely a heavy carry here. Just not quite enough value on these Rangers, which is why I would say, like, even just trade the Spearmen, literally fold their value into these Rangers so that you can just bring all White Lions. And I think that's just a much better front line. Like, 4 to 5 White Lions, I think it's a pretty solid front line against the Empire. I don't know, maybe you cut a couple of the Sea Guards or some extra spears just to have extra bodies, but hard to say. Anyway, mobile artillery right now is sort of the purview of the Empire. Other factions, I should say, in Game 3 will have access to some at least single-entity mobile artillery pieces. As to whether any of them will have multi-model mobile artillery pieces, it's hard to say, but I mean, you've got the Wagons, you've got the Hellblasters. Hellblasters literally double the price. But their DPS is legit. At times, people have said these guys have been a little bit OP. I don't think, I mean, they are quite strong, but just consider for a moment, you literally pay the same price as you would for the Templehof Luminarch. And yes, the damage potential output is very good, but it is still a war wagon, still only 50 speed, you know, still vulnerable to getting caught by it and killed by a number of things, vulnerable to counterfire as well, with only 250 range. But in a situation like that, where your opponent doesn't have the counterfire tools or the mobile tools, I mean, again, arguably, that Moondragon maybe could have gone out there and tried to kill them directly, but it's hard to say whether that would have worked or not. But if you can keep it safe from threats, it will absolutely pay out, as long as you're shooting high-value targets as well, I should say. Sometimes, like, I have seen this thing use all of its ammunition and not pay for itself if the targeting priority was not well placed, if it was shooting at cheap units too often. And sometimes it's tempting to shoot into a blob of cheap units, but in general, I would say with this, you want to shoot the most important and or expensive unit that you can, especially if you can chew models away, like with cavalry, but even single entity units, as we saw there, you can burst down very quickly. Obviously, with kind of the infantry meta, the way things are right now, you don't have to worry about cavalry as much, because a lot of people aren't going to bring as much. It's still something to be aware of, but with the right screening elements, you can definitely keep these guys safe. And firing into elite infantry or even mid-tier infantry can be a great value as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you learned something. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.